You know, in the early 1900s, the United States Navy was looking for a place to build a major shipyard here in the Pacific Northwest. They wanted to build the shipyard on Lake Washington, just north of Seattle. But to do so, they'd have to create a new waterway and perhaps a locks to get out to Puget Sound. They decided against that after the studies took so long, and they moved the shipyard idea to Bremerton. But the locks project went ahead over a period of years through state support as well as U.S. government support. When the locks was constructed, the water level in Lake Washington dropped 8 feet, leaving some piers in Salmon Bay high and dry and opening up all kinds of new waterfront. It was quite controversial at the time. There was no salmon or evidence of a salmon run here, and so to provide enough water to keep Lake Washington levels up and to have the locks work properly, they rerouted the Cedar River into Lake Washington.
Yes, I'm Communications Director Brianna Aho with the Governor's Office. I'm just going to briefly run through the speakers you'll hear from this morning. First, we'll hear welcome remarks from Seattle Public Schools Superintendent Ben Schuldner. That's last name Schuldiner. Then Governor Bob Ferguson will speak. Then Robert Eaglestaff Middle School Principal Zach Stoll will speak. That's Z-A-C, last name S-T-O-W-E-L-L. Then Robert Eaglestaff, 7th grader Zoe Taggart will speak. That's Z-O-E, last name T-A-G-G-A-R-T. Then we'll have parent speaker Manuela Sly, M-A-N-U-E-L-A, last name S-L-Y-E. Then Washington Education Association President Larry Delaney, that's D-E-L-A-N-E-Y. And then we'll conclude with Robert Eaglestaff Middle School teacher Stephen Payne, that's S-T-E-V-E-N, last name P-A-Y-N-E. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
All right. Good morning, everyone. It's just an absolute pleasure to be here today. As you can see, these wonderful people behind me are all here for one reason, which is to talk about banning cell phones. We know that our children are wonderful and amazing, but also easily distracted. And so if we as the adults can help support rules and regulations that can make it easier to learn, make it easier to teach, make it easier to have school, I'm all for it. I want to thank the principal, I want to thank the students, I want to thank the families for allowing us here today, and I really just want to thank the governor and everybody in the state of Washington who cares deeply about education and supporting our children. I do want to remind everybody that Seattle Public Schools is an amazing school district, as you can see by this wonderful building, and you'll hear from our wonderful staff and our students and our principal. And just please, it is an honor and privilege to be here to introduce our governor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mr. Superintendent. Thanks for your leadership, and it is a fantastic school district, and truly one of the best in the nation, as we saw with that recent Danny Westneat article, which I think illuminated for a lot of folks just how wonderful this district is. First, I think we should start with a round of applause for the Robert Eaglestaff Middle School Orchestra for them performing earlier on. We appreciate all you guys being here and for your talents and sharing those with our press here today. And I think you have a concert tonight, is my understanding, so if that's right, good luck with your concert later on this evening. I think it's appropriate we're here actually at Robert Eaglestaff. Robert Eaglestaff was a visionary education leader in our community and passed away far too young. And I think he would appreciate all of us being here for this announcement today for the future of our kids. I'm here to talk about a major policy initiative, and I want to be very clear, this will be one of my top priorities for the next legislative session, and that is banning cell phones in K-12 public schools statewide. I'll be proposing an away-for-the-day ban on cell phones in schools, meaning that from the first bell to the last, students will not have access to their cell phones. In our schools, digital distractions are causing kids to miss what's written on the whiteboard. They're focusing more on memes than on math. Science supports what all parents know intuitively. 95% of teens have a smartphone, and research shows that 97% of those teens use them during school, often multiple times in an hour. Studies show School day phone use has a negative impact on student learning, ability to focus, attendance, and mental and emotional health. More than 70% of teachers nationwide think smartphones are a major problem in the classroom. Without phones, research shows students are more engaged socially and academically. And when bans are clear and consistent, both teachers and students report feeling more connected and more engaged. Studies show teenagers spend, on average, roughly a quarter of their school day on their cell phones. Over a school year, that's missing literally about 40 school instruction days lost. As a parent of teenager, and I'm speaking just as much as a governor as a parent, maybe a little more as a parent than as a governor, to be perfectly honest, I know parents are doing their best to manage cell phone use with their kids. And trust me, from experience, I know how challenging that can be. So I know for teachers, for schools, for parents, this is a big, challenging issue. So they need support. More than half of states across the country are moving in one direction and one direction only. They're passing laws to keep cell phones out of classrooms. Washington State is not one of them, and that must change in the next legislative session. I signed a bill at the end of the last legislative session related to cell phones in schools that essentially adopted a study. And, you know, when I signed that bill into law, I don't recall my exact words, but I made it very clear a certain level of frustration that another legislative session had gone by and we had not done something more than another study. This issue is too important to leave simply to a study. We need to be stepping up in the next legislative session. We're going to do that. My team's been working hard, reaching out to legislators and stakeholders all across the state. We're going to continue doing that. And that's part of the reason for this pretty early announcement. Typically, we don't make announcements about governor request legislation, which this will be, until we get much closer to the legislative session. We want to do it now to signify how important this is to me and my team, but also to build that coalition all across the state and make sure we go into the next legislative session prepared to get this passed. Maybe just one more thing I'll say is that, and I think, Zach, this was something I think I saw you read, or what you said in the papers, is I think you said something like, hey, you know, we don't allow smoking on planes anymore. There was a time when that was very common, right? Nobody thinks that's a good idea anymore, right? And I'm confident that in 10 years, and I think I'm paraphrasing you if I'm remembering correctly, I think Zach said, hey, in 10 years, no one's going to think cell phones in the classroom is a good idea. So we can either be the next state to get this passed, or we will be the last. I really believe that is the choice before us. And I am determined to use the bully pulpit of my office, to use the resources of my office. You'll be hearing about this all through this year. You'll hear about my State of the State address. We need to get this done. And I deeply appreciate everybody here who's standing in solidarity with this. And no one more than that than the principal of this school who's going to speak from direct experience about, hey, what a change in policy can do for students, for student achievement, and for the entire atmosphere and culture of a school. Please give a round of applause for the principal of this wonderful institution. You're going to hear next from Zach. Thanks so much, Zach. Yeah.
Again, Zach Stoll, proud principal here at RESMS. I just want to say thank you so much to the governor for prioritizing our students' wellness and also removing barriers for kids to reach their full potential. And a huge shout out to Superintendent Schuldiner for just a couple of months in, saw a need, sat at the table, and implemented policy that went into play that supports all students here in Seattle Public Schools. So just thank you for your leadership. Just a couple years ago, we were living in perpetual crisis where students were unfortunately unsafe, our teacher capacity was low, and it felt like we were drinking from a fire hose based on all the challenges that follow cell phones. With that overwhelming approach, there were so many things that were happening that we just simply couldn't do our jobs. The amount of instructional minutes that were taken away from the challenges that cell phones bring, it just overwhelmed our system, and students weren't served. And so there was a specific time, and I think some of you guys may have heard this, but there was a specific time where we needed to do something different. So I ended up leaving cell phones here and taking our 8th graders out to camp. And at camp, I saw a few students that were complete different students, just absolutely different, and you couldn't unsee it. So I went over to this one girl and I said, who is this? Who the heck is this? Because that's not the person that's walking up and down these hallways. And the kiddo said to me, I can't be myself at school. I can't be myself. I'm always under the pressure of having a picture taken. I don't want to present in front of a class. Somebody may take a picture of me when I'm opening my mouth at lunch. And it just felt like these students have to wear these masks. And it's like, how do you reach your full potential and be your best self if that's how you're having to live? And that was outside of the constant fights and challenges that were happening. So when we went away for the day, it gave our culture breathing room and cultivated kind of this robust, special place that we have now. Our kiddos the classrooms are more vibrant, students are engaging, there's more social time, and at the end of the day, student success is up, our climate data is up, our test scores are up, and I'm seeing kids smile at rates that we've never seen before. In my office, just before we head off of this, in my office there's a kind of a vision board of the school year that my staff and students help co-design as we have our roadmap to hope here. And so that roadmap has quotes from students and staff, and there's 2 quotes that specifically popped out to me. One was 2 weeks after we implemented our policy, students came to my office and said, Stowell, kids are not who they used to be anymore. Kids started to recognize that other kids, the kindness and humanity was starting to come out. The other one was from a student named Zoe Taggart, and I'm not going to paraphrase. I'm going to have Zoe speak for themselves. And without further ado, I'd like to give a round of applause for my student that is open to sharing their thoughts and their words. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I know y'all talking about with these phones. I feel y'all. My name is Zoe. I'm a 7th grade student at Robert Eaglestadt Middle School. Before coming here, I went to schools where students could use their phones during the day. At first, I thought being a phone-free school, it could be boring. Like, it just might be a challenge. And then I thought about a phone-free school, like, it could be difficult. But there are times when I wish I had my phone, but over time, I realized something more important. When phones aren't around, you notice everything else that is. At our school, we spend more time talking to each other, building friendships and relationships. In the present day, instead of texting someone who's right down the hall, we actually go down and find them and have a real conversation. Those small moments help people feel connected like they belong. I've also noticed that students seem happier and less stressed. They're not consistently worried about notifications, social media, or getting a text that can change their whole mood in seconds. During the day, we get a break from all of that and can focus on our learning, friends, and more. And those small moments help people feel like they're connected and they belong. I've also noticed that one of the biggest differences I notice in the hallways at schools with phones, people are often looking down at screens. Almost seems like they're zombies. Social media or a text is just all around us. Here, people are looking up, they're smiling, saying hi to each other, and actually interacting. It feels more real. Phones will always be a part of our lives. But I believe we should be a place that students can focus, build relationships, and learn how to connect with people around them. I'm able to focus more. I feel like I'm a better student with my phone out of sight, and that's why I support phone-free schools.
Good morning. My name is Manuel Sly. I am a Latino community leader and education advocate. I'm here to support cell phone-free schools and classrooms. As a member of Seattle Council PTSA, I listen to parents and their concerns when they see their children not able to reach their full potential because of all the distractions in the classroom. I also hear from teachers and their frustration that they have to manage cell phones while trying to teach a class. And then myself as a parent, I have encountered challenges trying to get my kids to focus and to be present when there's cell phones all over the place. So I'm here today to fully support this effort. I believe that our students in Washington State are ready to learn and to thrive and to connect and make real relationships with their classrooms and teachers and environments and peers without the distractions of cell phones. So I want to say this. The responsibility to teach kids the proper use of cell phones is shared with families, parents, schools, and communities. I think that we can do a better job together, and this is a very important first step. Well, I have done some steps, but this is a good step, a statewide effort. So thank you very much. Thank you, Governor Ferguson, and everyone that has worked and support this effort. Gracias.
Good morning. I'm Larry Delaney, president of the Washington Education Association. We represent 84,000 educators and have a footprint in every community in the state. It's important to note that Washington's educators are dedicated to making learning fun and engaging, but we can't compete with the dopamine hits that devices give our students. App and phone designers have invested billions and done deep research to figure out how to grab our attention. And that effect is even more severe on children who have yet to develop the ability to filter the barrage of incoming information. I'm proud of the work that our state's educators do on a daily basis. Their creativity is unmatched. But no amount of gamifying or enhancing lessons will offer the stimulation that the latest TikTok trend will. I'm 57 years old, and I find myself getting sucked in. We know that big tech has created a system that is designed to get us addicted. The algorithms are no joke. If we want students to learn, we need to turn off devices. Earlier this year, I was at a middle school in the West Valley School District in Yakima, and I was talking with the building principal about their policy. They had just implemented a bell-to-bell policy, and he said, let's take a look. We walked into the cafeteria. Kids were talking with one another. He said a year ago, half of the students would have had their faces buried in screens. As I walked in here today and I saw the pile of games over there that come out during lunch, kids are not on their phones. They're playing games. They're talking with one another. This issue has become a priority for WEA, and just last April, nearly 1,000 educators gathered in Spokane at our annual rep assembly and passed a resolution almost unanimously to make it WEA's position that we support a statewide away for the day cell phone policy so that students can focus on learning, growing, and reaching their full potential. We owe it to our students to make this happen. Governor, thank you for your leadership on this.
Hi there. My name is Stephen Payne. I'm a math teacher here at Robert Eagle Staff Middle School, and I'm coming to the end of my 21st year of teaching. And last year was my 20th year of teaching, and a lot of good things happened last year. Number one, Zoe was in my 6th grade math class, and I can attest that I witnessed Zoe and her classmates build relationships with people that they may not have built relationships with in the past. They joked around with each other, worked on math together. And in the hallway, she's correct. Students have their heads up, they're communicating with each other, and it feels much more of a human-friendly place here. Last year was kind of a career-defining moment for me as a teacher. Having cell phones put away for the day, as Mr. Stowell said, kind of allowed breathing room for us to create the culture here that we've been working so hard to create. And now as a classroom teacher, I get to teach. My students come in, they're engaged. They're still middle school students, so we still have the hurdles that we have every day. But it's great. We get to just meet them where they're at and just deal with them as people. And there's a lot more community in the classroom, a lot more engagement. One other thing I wanted to mention is me and my math department colleagues, we go on a walk every day at lunch just outside of our school. And we walk past the soccer field outside of our school, and you see hundreds of kids running around playing soccer. Some kids are playing kickball. They're even playing tag. They're middle school students out there being kids, and it's really exciting to see that. And it's because of our phone away for the day policy that makes that happen. And I'm just really grateful that I work at a school that we have this policy. It's made a huge difference. Thank you.
Thanks so much to all of our speakers. I love your line, now as a classroom teacher, I get to teach. That may be the slogan for this campaign, right? But it really sums it up, right? Now as a classroom teacher, I get to teach. Please thank all of our speakers, but especially Zoe for speaking today. Yeah, really appreciate it. And we're happy to answer any questions that folks may have. And I'll do my best to repeat the question just so everybody can hear it as well.
Governor, there's clearly been a movement for this across the country, but there's really been an argument that perhaps this is a parent-by-parent decision, that parents are concerned about reaching their kids during the school day in case of an emergency. How do you answer that?
Yeah, look, and speaking as a parent of 2 teenagers, who just graduated from high school a few days ago, can appreciate that. But what I would say is we have ways for parents to reach their kids. We've had generations after generations after generations of students where you reach out to the school and you find a way to do that. And we manage to navigate that. And so while I hear that, I think on any important policy conversation, you always have to balance out different perspectives, right? That's a legitimate perspective. But I think the overwhelming majority of parents understand that while it would be nice to be in touch with your kid minute by minute during the school day, what's best for that child is to be able to have a teacher who can actually teach in the classroom, and to have your child have the opportunity to learn that classroom, and have your child be at a school like this where the culture is one of, hey, kids interacting and playing games over lunch. That those positives outweigh those legitimate concerns. So I'm not here to minimize that. Again, as a parent, I certainly understand that. But I think there's a reason why this is, I think you said, Chris, a movement, I think is the word you used, that is happening across the country, because I think parents, teachers, folks who work in our schools, our educators, all understand that the positives far outweigh those concerns.
Governor Ferguson, Bruno Caro 7. So phones are a big distraction. How do you plan on supporting teachers who have to fill that role that phones played? For example, the dopamine properties that were discussed earlier.
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating it just one more time?
Sure. So how do you plan on supporting teachers that now have to fill that kind of role that the phones played? They were releasing dopamine, is what I heard earlier.
I may defer to our teachers who are here, but I think what I would say is what I hear from teachers is that, hey, this action allows them to perform their function, right? That right now it's the problem is that dopamine fix is getting in the way of the instruction. It's an impediment to the classroom experience. So, for us, our way to support our educators is to pass this policy that allows them to do what they do best, what they're trained for, which is why they have a passion for education, to teach kids, to change lives of kids. My mom was a teacher. That's what it was about for her, I guarantee you. And so this allows them to perform that important work. Yeah.
Why not issue an executive order?
I wish I had. I ask my team all the time if we're talking about a policy issue. I often will say, they're going to be laughing, can I just sign an executive order and make that happen? So they've heard that line many times. I'm saying it half joking most time when I say it, because I just don't have that power. So this is the kind of thing that must go through our legislative process and be adopted through the state legislature. And honestly, that's important. Like, there should be a conversation, right? Chris Daniels asked a question, hey, this parent perspective, that's legitimate. We should have conversations, a public discourse about that. I think that's important. But no, I can't just do it by an executive order.
Governor, why do you think it's taken so long? Because this is an idea that we've heard about for the last few sessions, and like you said, it was going to be studied until 2030. Why has it been so drawn out?
It's a great question. Why it's drawn out, why it's taken so long. I don't have a precise answer for that. I have some thoughts about it. Others may want to share their thoughts. My overall sense is that change is hard in life in general for folks. Changing culture is hard, right? That's why I appreciate our still relatively new superintendent. I think several months on the job, just stepping in saying, we're just doing this right now. We got to get this done. I think we need more of that in this state, to be perfectly honest. And so I think there's many reasons why it's a challenge, but I think ultimately change is difficult. Whatever those reasons are, though, Drew, I think what I would say is it's why I just reached a point, I think when I was signing that study last year, where I realized, okay, I'm going to get personally involved in this, right? I have a unique role as governor. I can build a coalition. I can use the bully pulpit. We're just going to get it done. We're just going to get that done and have the conversation about the concerns that folks have that are totally legitimate. We're going to have that conversation. But the end result, my full expectation is that this group and hundreds of others are going to join us for a bill signing. We're going to have Zoe down there, hopefully speaking at that bill signing, and we're just going to get this done.
Governor, I know that this has been tried in the past. We've seen opposition from Representative Sharon Tamico. Have you had that conversation with her, and any senses she's on board?
Yeah, so I appreciate the question on Representative Santos. My team, I was talking to Debbie, my Legislative Affairs Director, about 2 hours ago, and she's had a chance to have a conversation with the representative. We'll have more of those conversations, obviously, as we're moving forward, and I look forward to sitting down myself with her and others. This is something that that is going to be a priority, and so we'll be, we gave every member of the Education Committees a heads up, obviously, that we're making this announcement. So we're doing that normal work, and that's a part of it. Not every legislator comes from a different place on this, and it's my job and my team's job to make sure we're doing that outreach, that we're reaching out to all those legislators. I will say I think it's a huge step forward that with Larry Delaney here on behalf of the WA, the Washington Education Association, that they took that vote. That they took that vote. I think just recently, last couple of months, I think you said that's huge. We've already heard from legislators that is deeply meaningful to them, that they trust the WA, that they really look to the WA as they should for, hey, what do educators think about policies that impact the classroom? So I think that's a huge step forward. So I do believe there's a lot of momentum right now behind this, and but we just got to keep moving forward with it.
Governor, you mentioned there's overwhelming support of this, and many educators are in favor of it. Why would it be that some educators are not in favor of it?
I guess I can't. I'll let if other folks want to speak to that about what their arguments are, I'll leave that to them. But I think, Larry, you heard from the WA almost unanimous support on that. These are from our leaders in the classroom, our educators all across the state, in every jurisdiction of our state, all coming together at their conference. I've been to their conference. It's big. There's a lot of folks there. Take my word for it, right? So to have that level of support for any policy, right? Hey, there can be reasonable debates on any education policy, what we teach, how we teach it, of course. The fact that it was virtually unanimous, in Larry's words, I think signifies that, that the support is very strong for this from educators.
I've got a question for Zoe.
Go for
it. All right. Can you step up to the podium? Just want to ask you, Zoe, about, my name's Scott, I'm with Channel 13. Can you tell me about what your peers or your other students think here in the school?
I know a really big part of phone-free and just not having phones is, like, sometimes it can be boring. Sometimes I wish I had my phone, and I can say that. But I know a lot of students here, they have fun, and we do things at this school that make us forget we have our phones, and that's a really big part of it. And another part of it is just having that realization that there's other things to do other than your phone. And I think it makes me a lot more creative. It makes a lot of my friends a lot more creative. I know we have a lot more time in class to do stuff, whether than just like spending time like texting each other or sending each other like pictures. And there's a lot more stuff to do, and we realize that without phones.
Thanks, Zoe. Appreciate it.
Another question for
Go
Zoe.
for it. Yeah.
What does that look like after class? I mean,
I know in passing periods, lunch, and like in between classes, and just all of that, and especially after school. Even after school, we don't see anybody on their phones until they get home. Everybody's talking to each other, having conversations right after classes. We come out of class, and it's just you see everybody, and everybody's having fun. Everybody's like smiling, looking up, just having a good day. And even if someone's not having a good day, we know that that's not to blame for their phones. And like I said, one text can change someone's whole mood.
That's a good
question for the principal. Could you explain the logistics? Is there a box that the phones are kept in? Is it an honor system? Do teachers have to enforce it?
And so every school has their own away for the day policy now in Seattle Public Schools, and each kind of building navigates that policy. Here 2 years ago, we ended up kind of doing a pendulum swing. So here at Robert Eagle staff, we do use a yonder pouch system. Well, I know that's not necessarily equitable where everyone has the funds. At the time when we did it, it just outweighed, because we didn't have a policy coming from top down, it really needed to be something that was a little stronger. But I think one of the main things I want to talk about with this, and Zoe touched base on it, and when we're catching up around her speech was, it kind of goes to what Mr. Drew was talking about. Zoe said that she's able to connect with teachers at a deeper level, and the teachers get to know Zoe, and Zoe gets to know the teachers because those phones are away, which then allows the teacher to then get to know the kid to the design of their instruction and meet the needs for this competition as kids are in or out within 10 seconds. So how do you sit with a 58-minute lesson? So that is the challenge that our educators work, and it's real. So multiple things are existing around how do buildings implement policy, and we had to do it by ourselves, and because we didn't want to punitize or go through kids' backpack, this is the choice we made. While we know that's not equitable for everyone, it was just something we did. And so I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that that's the policy, what we did, and where we're at. And also just to state, like, when you asked that question, I was like, oh, Zoe literally said, I get to put my phone down, I get to connect my teacher, they know me, I know them, and my teachers every Wednesday during an early release is figuring out ways to build off their story strength and needs of their students. Our new student growth goals have interview students where they get input on students about their lived experience. And so all of those things, removing phones alone is not going to be the wand to make education perfect, but it allows us to make the next step forward to supporting students and their needs.
Any other questions that folks have? Yeah.
I guess I have one more. It's not lost on me that I'm, listening to you guys talk about cell phones and I'm taking photos with my cell phone. How do you strike the balance of needing to know how to use phones into the future for possibly careers later on, while also tamping down decent space?
And I think, that's real. I think wave a wand, what does perfection look like, is like elementary school. They're learning conflict resolution, confidence identity, navigating peers, and focusing on being a learner. Middle school is around relationship and understanding the world beyond your nose here and the impact of other people. And again, with phones being away during those adolescent and very important times, we're able to build the connections for them to use the technology responsibly outside. We have done parent education where it's working with study groups around the anxious generation text, or having Delaney Rustin from Screenagers come do parent education nights. My students have actually watched some of these Screenagers. So we're literally, during our advisory, I got my counselors and my staff designing instruction around social emotional intelligence to navigate the complexities that phones bring to our world. And with that, they're able to then implement those hopefully outside on the weekends, during the summers, over breaks. So it's a whole child, right? So we have to do the learning and the scaffolding. And just to state that we did all of that while we had phones, and we'd see a dip in challenges and then right back up even higher. And so doing that while removing phones is giving them the tools to be able to implement while they're not in the building. So it's a beautiful thing.
Can I add something?
Oh, absolutely, go for it. Yes.
I just want to add that there should be a big credit to our students at this school. Like, they showed up and it was a big change for them, but our students were ready. I think they were ready and hungry for a more engaging learning environment, and I think a lot of credit needs to go to our kids, that they're tough and they're adaptable and they want to be challenged and to learn. So yes, it's a change, and like the governor said, change is hard, but a lot of credit needs to go to our students for how quickly they adapt to it and how quickly they embraced it.
So I think we'll do one more, and I think folks are available afterwards as well if you have one-on-ones as well. Yeah.
If I may,
Yep.
This is the right time for this, but while working on this, is there any movement on increasing base pay for teacher substitutes and maybe even hiring more people to have more teachers in the classroom to help the students who are maybe eager to learn as well?
Sure, and Larry may want to add on this, but in Washington State, our teachers are, compared to most states, paid very well, right? That has been a priority of legislators. I saw Jerry Paulette, who's here from our state legislature, and others maybe here as well, who have focused on that in our budget to make sure we're investing in our teachers. And that is something that I think Washington State should be proud of, that we've done so well in that. But I'll say just generally, and then Larry, feel free to add if you want to add to this question, is that is a priority for us overall. We invest billions of dollars into our education system. And in doing that, and that's appropriate, we also want to make sure we're driving towards really positive outcomes. And that's why we're here today, because it's something that won't require money for the most part, right? And can make a big difference overall for our students, for academic performance, for attendance, for their mental health. And so that's why I think this is an important part of that whole puzzle, right, that we look at as we look at our education system. But I do want to give Larry a chance to maybe chat about that.
No, thank you, Governor. Our certificated salaries in the state are among the highest in the nation. I'm proud of that work. We have a COLA and state statute which helps to educators to keep up with the cost of living in most communities. I can't say that is the case in Seattle, but in most communities it works. Where we need to see growth is among our ESPs, paraeducators, office support staff, bus drivers, grounds and maintenance. Too large a burden of ESP, paraeducator compensation is placed on local school districts to pay for that with local levy dollars. So that's a focus for WEA moving forward.
Thanks for that question. And again, I think all of us are available afterwards if folks have individual questions. But as we wrap up, I just want to thank everybody who's here today, whatever role you have in our education system. We appreciate you being here. A special thank you, of course, Zach, to you and your team for, first, your hospitality in hosting us, to the incredible students with the orchestra, for their... But also just for what you've created here, right? You and your team, and we understand that's a team effort, right? But you know, helping students like Zoe and so many others, right? And creating that atmosphere and that culture, which I think is a word that you've used before, to create that culture We want this all across the state, right? That's what we want. We want that environment all across the state. When you walk into that lunchroom during the lunch hour, you're seeing kids interacting, right? They're not staring at a screen. They're on the games. They're talking. They're hanging out. They're learning in the classroom. That teachers can do what they want to do. Teachers can teach. That's what we're searching for. That's what we're going for. And I'm confident we're going to get this through. I so appreciate all of you being here. A round of applause once more for this wonderful, wonderful school and Zach. Thanks so much. Yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah, great job. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. Yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah.